Good evening, everyone. I welcome you to today's webinar on psychological and emotional distress of living far from home, coping with cultural differences. It's a pleasure to have you all with us as we explore the unique emotional and psychological challenges faced by individuals who live far from home, especially in culturally diverse settings. This is an increasingly relevant topic as globalization, education, work, and migration continue to shape our lives, bringing both opportunities and psychological demands. Adjusting to a new culture, language, social expectations, and being distant from familiar support systems can lead to stress, isolation, and identity struggles. Today, we shall engage in a meaningful dialogue around these topics and learn from experienced professionals in the field of psychology. Uh, for today's webinar, we are honored to have with us Ms. Yeja Chaudhary and Ms. Dipshika Kalita, who are respected psychologists with rich experiences in the field of mental health. I am Sabina Yasmin, a student of MSc Clinical Psychology. I will be the moderator for today's webinar. Let's dive right into our discussion now. Uh, for today's webinar, the first question that I would like to ask is, what are some of the common psychological challenges people face when they move away from home, especially to a new cultural environment?
Thank you so much, Sabina, for such a wonderful introduction. I would like to go ahead with this question. So, in this particular era that we live, it's very common for people to move out of their own state or shift to a different state or a different country. So, when people relocate to a different place, it may be for education, for work, or simply for the purpose of migration. So, when they are relocating to a different state or country, it's not just a different place, it's also a very different environment, and not just any kind of environment, it's a different cultural environment. And when they transition to that particular environment, they often face a range of emotional and psychological challenges, and that sort of always present itself as like certain hindrances to their smooth transition. So, what are some of these challenges that people face? The first one is that we most commonly say is homesickness. This is one of the terms that we are all very much aware of. It's when we, move away from their home and we miss that familiar environment of our home, or maybe our food, maybe the, daily routines that we share with our parents and the bonds that we share in the family environment. So when we step out of that comfort zone and when we're placed in a completely different environment, we need to adapt to that particular environment. And while adapting, oftentimes what happens is that we tend to, first thing that when we move out, we tend to crave for that familiar feeling of, home environment again. So this can cause a lot of, emotional discomfort, especially when, there are certain festivals and, holidays, or like certain personal milestones. Say maybe we achieved something, maybe we achieved a goal and we want to share with our family, but they're not there. And especially during festivals, since it's like the time where we sit and celebrate together. So during those periods of time, it's very common for us to feel homesickness. And other than this, one particular thing that we are also aware of is cultural shock. So cultural shock is something when we go from our own culture, our own cultural environment, to a different culture, and we see that the things are done differently there. There are unfamiliar customs, unfamiliar languages, unfamiliar social etiquettes, and unfamiliar values, the kind of things that we're all not aware of, or we are not used to. So as simple as certain social things, for example, the way we greet, the way we say thank you can be different in a different cultural setting. So those things might be shock to us. And Slowly those cultural, maybe if the values that a different place share from us, the cultural value, and something that we are, grown up with a particular value, and if it's very much different over there, it might be a source of anxiety for us because we were brought up with those values, but we see here that that is not being, say, like followed or respected, and that can become a source of frustration and anxiety from us because our body, our mind, it's not able to adapt to that particular value or culture per se. Another thing that is bound to happen is loneliness and isolation, because in a new cultural environment or like in any kind of new place, we are, we very much have that feeling of like, I don't belong here. This is not my place. We feel very out of place to say. We feel very much invisible. It's like, who we are even in this new place, like, this is not my place, and I don't have my people here. I don't have my the way I live my life, it's very different over here, and that can give a rise to loneliness. We'll feel very lonely, not only physically but also not only by our physical surroundings but also the way we live, the customs, the the particular cultural things that are being followed there. It's very different from what happens in our own home. So that can give a rise to this feeling of isolation, and we might start isolating ourselves. We might tend to go away from that thing and protect our maybe own own peace. So, other thing that comes with loneliness is identity confusion. Like I said, who am I even in this environment? Am I accepted here? Do I belong here? Are certain questions that are bound to come. Can I still be true to my own roots? Am I losing myself in this new environment? Is particular thing that happens, most of the time happens among people who move out, and that itself is very much internally for a person to feel like that. That itself can be very much frustrating for them, because they are there for their work or for their education, and they won't be able to oftentimes they are not able to properly focus on the particular thing that they went there for. Other than that, they're focusing more on the fact that they don't belong there or they're unable to belong there. So a sort of confusion, a sort of conflict happens there. So sometimes they're even bound to face certain discrimination, or like say small microaggression, because whenever we, even us, whenever we find people that do not belong in our culture, we tend to notice certain things about them, that oh, they are different. Even though we don't say it out loud, yeah, we might have certain small microaggression that we say. We might not make it con- consciously also, but yeah, oftentimes that happen, that can be very subtle, but those things will get to that other person who is from a different culture. And and there are also other overt form of discrimination which is very much in their face, simply calling them out or saying that you don't belong here, what are you doing here, saying racist slurs or something. So all those things will definitely affect their mental well-being. So after all of this, as a person is going through all of this, certainly it can develop to become a clinical condition of maybe say depression, anxiety. Those things might come out along with maybe say sleep issues or appetite issues, motivation issues, and a very much a feeling of helplessness as they try to cope with all of the changes that is happening around them. So these are some of the important challenges that they face. Other than this, I am sure there are a lot of things that people face when they shift to a new environment. But these are some of the most common things or commonly talked about things. I hope this answered your question, Sabina.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was really insightful. And it is absolutely right that moving away from home is both challenging, is exciting and challenging as well. like adapting to a new culture while trying to maintain one's own cultural values can be difficult at times. And as you said, it can lead to feelings of loneliness, identity confusion, homesickness, and even and these things can also at times lead to some clinical issues. I would like to ask Yeja ma'am if she would like to add something on this point.
Um, Sabina, I think Rishika ma'am has already explained it in a beautiful manner. Just touching upon the discrimination and the micro aggression part of it, that yes, these are something which is socially constructed and which actually cause a lot of additional harm to the kid, to the people who are trying to adjust themselves to start a new life, not from home, but in a different land, in a different place, maybe a different country. Things like discrimination and microaggressions are actually do actually cause a lot of harm, to a lot of people. And because if you just take a picture that if today I have to move to UK or to the States, and then all of a sudden that is a cultural shock for me because a lot of things are going to be different, then I will be very much prone to isolation and social loneliness and stuff like that, because there will be a lot of new challenges, a lot of new things that I have to go through there. The people, the kind of friends, the kind of environment I have grown up into is not present there, right? I have to unlearn a lot of things. I have to learn a lot of things. I have to adapt to their surrounding, to their environment. And with these things itself, there's a lot of anxiousness, there's a lot of stress going on already. And on top of that, if there is a discrimination, if there is microaggression to that particular person, it even piles up even more. And that harms the person to a greater extent. So I think Dipshika has touched all the points appropriately and on to the point. But yes, discrimination and microaggression is something which is very, very prone to a lot of people who migrate to a different place, who go to a different land in the need for job or in the need for educational purpose or any other purpose. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add to that particular question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So let's move on to the next question for the webinar. So the second question is, what are some signs that someone might be struggling with adjustment issues but may not realize it themselves?
All right, Sabina, I'll go forward with this question. So when we talk about signs of adjustment issues, there's something that we need to know is that adjustment comes into foreplay, into the forefront only when you move out of your comfort. Your home is your safe space. It's your comfort zone. Your nervous system and your body has been adapted to that particular place since maybe childhood, since a very long time. And all of a sudden, if you have to move to a different place, to a different land, and then you have to make that particular place your new home or your new house, then it creates a little bit of tension in the person, and depending on person to person, the intensity can vary. And now if we need to look into the signs, one of the most evident sign can be a persistent level of fatigue and low motivation. you know that the person is not interested to do things that he was interested in before. There's a very low motivation because uh that there was obvious reason why he had to move from place A to B. It was exciting for him, it was a need for him. That's why he moved from to place A to place B. But then the motivation which he had in the beginning is no more. There is this persistent feeling of fatigue, even with adequate amount of rest and proper diet. That is something which can be one of the signs. Another sign is very well seen is social withdrawal. You're not trying to make friends. You're not trying to gel with other people. You're not trying to talk with anyone. Even if people are, calling you, you're avoiding calls, messages, social events because you feel that you don't feel that need or you don't feel that will. You don't have that will that I'll go and involve myself or engage myself with other fellow human beings or other new people, right? Social withdrawal is also is a very key point that we see, key sign that we see. Another key sign that we can see is the negligence in self-care in terms of your appetite, your sleep. You're not taking proper responsibility of yourself. Your daily needs are not fulfilled. Your appetite you can lose your appetite. You're not hungry anymore. That can be another symptom, that is that increase of appetite. You're emotionally eating a lot because you're alone, because you're lonely, so you keep on eating a lot. So food can be one of the indicator how you eat. If your eating habits have changed drastically, that can be one of the indicator and sign. Your sleep is another indicator. If I have to talk about sleep, either you're oversleeping, you're undersleeping. You're not sleeping at all, or you're sleeping a lot. You know, and then like these two are also a good indicator. Another very important indicator is excessive amount of worry and overthinking. You keep on thinking, you keep on worrying about the decision that you made. Will you fit in this new land? Are you being judged by other people? You keep on ruminating on the thoughts like, did I make a good decision? Should I have like कहते हैं, अभी को लगी से करना है मुझे ये करना चाहिए था ये नहीं करना चाहिए था. All of these questions, having going through all of these questions again and again in your head, thinking about, did I make the right choice? Did I fit in? Or am I being judged? And lastly, a feeling of numbness and disconnectedness from the rest of the people, which also goes well with social withdrawal, that you are cutting off relationship, friendship from the surrounding, right? You feel disconnected, you feel misfit, you feel, you don't feel, there can be a point where you don't feel anything, you feel numb, you know. So these can be some early signs that one who is going through with adjustment issue can encounter, can go through. So yeah, I think that explains your questions, Sabina, for me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a wonderful answer. And yes, moving to a new place and the expectations that a person has from the new place, and when it is combined with the difficulties they face while adjusting, this can lead to a various kinds of psychological issues, as you have mentioned: social withdrawal, disturbances in sleep, appetite, homesickness, and all those. It can also lead to decreased productivity in work, negligence of self-care, and many more. We cannot keep on counting, it's a lot. So I would like to ask Dipshika ma'am if she would like to add some more points.
Yes, I think Nija ma'am covered it quite beautifully. Was I audible, Sabina?
No ma'am, I'm so sorry, I could not hear you.
Okay, I said that we can move on from this question. Nija ma'am, covered it quite beautifully.
Okay ma'am, sure. So moving on, the next question is, what are some practical coping strategies to manage cultural distress and emotional overwhelm in a new environment?
All right, Sabina, I would like to take up this question. First of all, what can we do, to cope over there in a new environment? When we think about this, the first thing is that we'll also have to be curious about that particular culture that we're going to move into, or like are currently staying at. Because from our side, if we also have a judgment about that place, if we are like trying to remain very closed off from the experiences that that particular place provides, then that itself would bring about this source of this feeling of isolation within us. Because we are not trying to gel with that particular environment, we're rather trying to stay away from it. So first thing we can do is be curious about the environment, ask questions to the people around us, observe them without making any kind of judgment, learn their language, maybe learn their customs, learn their traditions and values. I'm not saying to change yourself and become that person, become fully integrated in their culture, but from our side also we should have this sense of trying to form a connection with them, you know trying to learn from them, trying to take certain things from them. Because it's not like we can become integrated in a particular place where we don't put any kind of effort. So we'll have to make an effort to understand that particular place, understand why do they have this certain sort of values, why are they doing that. There must be a reason behind it. Why do they have this particular customs? There must be some kind of history behind it. So if we try to understand and learn and be curious without any judgment, I feel like we will break some of the barrier that we're facing first when we move into that place. And while we are respecting their culture and learning from them, we should also try to stay connected to our roots. And how can we do that? We can do that by for example, maybe sharing about our own culture with the people around us, people around that environment. Maybe sharing our cooking, maybe when we're having a festival, maybe celebrating it even there, listening to the music, the kind of music we have back at home, participating in like certain community clubs that in that place will have maybe people belonging to the similar culture as me. Maybe we can form groups and hold those certain kind of festivals, certain gatherings, and celebrate our own culture. Try to keep in touch with the family members back at home, engaging and just being proud of our own heritage and culture, and even sharing with it with in the place where we have like this new environment. And maybe that is how we can learn from each other and understand each other better and respect each other's cultures also. So apart from this, what can we do is that we can try to personally we can try to establish a consistent routine maybe. Because the environment around us is very much out of our control when we go there. So one thing that we can have in our control is our own routine. We can maybe plan our entire day, keep certain activities like walks or like certain exercises, because those are the things that we have in our control. Those are the things that we can maybe say those are the things that we can work on even in a newer environment. It's not something that we can take a walk only in our hometown. We can do that in outside also. We can have a proper work schedule. We can have a proper study schedule. We can experience maybe new food. We can experience maybe new places. We can look around, go around. Certain things that we can take initiative on our own. So maybe those are the things that we'll have to try to do on our own, and we can make a routine for that. Maybe on every Saturday I will go around in the town, and I'll visit a museum, I'll go to this park, I'll explore a bit. Or maybe I'll even in my own place of residence, I'll maybe daily in the morning I'll take certain walks, I'll do this. So any kind of things that can help us emotionally, and also help us maintain our routine, we can maybe do that. And then along with them comes like certain things like mindfulness and exercises. We can practice those. For example, deep breathing exercises, maybe grounding exercises, journaling. Those are certain things that we ourselves can do. There are a lot of videos, there are a lot of exercises that is available all over the internet. We can use those, if we feel like there is something that we can become better by ourselves. For example, if a person feels like that they need support from a professional, obviously they should go to a professional. But if they feel like maybe a bit of journaling would help them, maybe certain deep breathing exercises would help them, maybe yoga would help them, if they feel like those things would help them, they should definitely go and try to at least practice those things. For example, when we are journaling, it will offer us to write a chapter. For example, we're writing about our new experiences there, new things. We're not able to talk it out with someone when we're brand new. Writing in particular would help us or provide an outlet to process those newer experiences, and also reflect on our own inner self, whatever we're maybe feeling inside. Other than that, we'll have to be very much realistic. We'll have to set very realistic expectations, because we cannot think that okay, day one I'll move to this new place, within a week I'll become very much comfortable in my environment, and by the next month I'll be very much successful in this place. That is something that that is something very much not realistic in nature. So we'll have to think that this is going to be something very much gradual. It's going to be a gradual process. I'll have to acknowledge any kind of difficulties that I face. I'll have certain emotional lows at times. Things won't be how I plan, because whenever we go to a new place, we always have plans. We always go there with a motive. We have certain things that we want to achieve, or maybe we want to do certain things or learn certain things. So we'll have to tell ourselves, maybe how I planned back home, things may not turn out like that when I actually go and experience in that environment. So in that particular environment, we'll have to be very much non-critical towards ourselves. If we keep on blaming ourselves for not being able to adjust, that will only take a toll on our own self, because we'll have to treat ourselves with very much kindness in that particular environment. We cannot be like that, I thought I would have achieved my goal in like this year only. I thought I will move to Japan or somewhere, and I thought that within the year I'll have a very much successful company there. So if I'm not meeting that particular goal, I can't be like that I failed in life or something. That is something that we'll have to treat with very much compassion. We'll have to be self compassionate towards ourselves, because that is something we did not foresee what was going to happen in that environment before. Maybe we were prepared, maybe we were very much prepared, but still things can take a different route. Things can be very much different in a new environment. So we'll just have to be kinder towards ourselves in that particular environment. Also, one more thing is that I think I've covered it more or less before. We should try to engage with their, certain activities or social events or whatever, that particular culture provides us, instead of trying to escape or like, isolate ourselves from that particular environment. We should try to build networks. We should try to foster new connections, because back at our home we have a support system, we have our own groups. Here, since we've made a very new journey, or like we're new here, we should try to join certain our interest based clubs, maybe something that we're interested in, maybe a book club or a movie club, any kind of thing that will keep us going in that particular environment. And when, when we feel like that, no, I'm not able to do anything on my own, I'm not able to journal, I'm not able to engage with anyone. It's getting very difficult for me to adjust and, even spend another day, or, go do my day by day work or whatever. So, in that case, I would highly, highly recommend seeking out professional help, because that is something, most of the time people try to avoid. They'll be like, we're just in a newer environment, so this is something normal that is supposed to happen to me, even though it's quite normal that, we will face challenges in a newer environment. What is not normal is, sort of putting ourselves through that if when we know that we can seek for help. So I highly, highly recommend, if anyone out there is feeling like this, they should go and seek some sort of professional help. They should also reach out to their family members and let them know what difficulties they're facing, and what has been throughout, what they have been going throughout this journey. So yeah, I hope this answers your question, Sabina.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The answer was really good. Um, and yes, being open to the new cultural experiences and the local customs, sharing one's own cultural customs and professional I would like to ask Keja ma'am if she would like to add on something.
There's just one point that I want to add on. Like, Dipshika has already, narrated it. Like, the picture has made a picture beautifully. But there's just one point I want to retouch again, that is like setting realistic expectation. That is so important. And practicing self-compassion, where you are treating yourself with kindness, with compassion, with gratitude, with love, seeing from these lenses, not from a lens of failure, not from a lens of hatred, not from a lens of guilt, you know. So these are very major, major feelings that people go through. And I think setting up a realistic expectation is where it starts from. You know, when you move out from your city, when you move out from your state, when you move out from your country, I think people should plan their future activities and future, habits in a way that where it is realistic in nature, not in a way that oh, once I go to Bangalore or once I go to Delhi, I'm going to be independent. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Very superficial and very high end expectation from yourself, which maybe it's not true. I'm gonna have a great bunch of friends in the college. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and all of these things. Or there can be another extreme where the people are like, I'm not gonna talk with anyone. I'm just going there for my studies. I'm just gonna study. I'm not gonna do anything else apart from that. So having the touch of reality is something very important, and that will actually keep you, on a on the ground where you are not feeling the pressure that you are not succeeding or you are not doing something way beyond that you promised yourself to do and stuff like that. So I think having a touch of reality and keeping your expectation on a very realistic forum would help people. And even if you have good expectations with yourself, and let's just say life is very, and because life is very uncertain, and there are certain things happen which was never in your control, and due to which you couldn't have the things were completely on the other end, and that was nothing that you were expecting your life to be. Even though in those periods, practicing self-compassion plays a major role and actually helps your mental health, helps your emotional health, where you try to keep yourself, protected even when there's chaos all around. So yeah, I think that's all I want to add to this particular question. Sabina, can you hear me?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now let's move on to the next question. So the last question for today's webinar is, what role do support systems like peers, community groups, or therapy play in easing the transition?
Right. I would like to go ahead with this question. So, I would just like to give you like a very comprehensive answer to this particular question. Like we as human, I know these days on social media we preach a lot about independence, we preach a lot of solo dates, we preach a lot about being alone, and hyper independence is something that internet is fancying about. But at the end of the day, like I said, if we keep a very realistic idea about ourselves, at the end of the day we are all human beings, we are all social beings, you know we cannot live alone. We always need a sense of belongingness, a sense of community. Even if it's just with one person, that's fine, but we do need support systems. And when we talk about support system, peer community, support groups, community groups, and even just talking to your therapist actually helps a lot. Like I said, because we are social beings, we need to be social. We need to have the sense of belongingness. Now, what happens when you have good support system, or when you have some support system such as the peers or the community group, or let's just say you're talking to no one else but just your therapist. In that case, also, in this scenario, also, when you have a support system, the ones I mentioned a few minutes back, even though you have not all but some or one among these, that will also give you some sort of validation, some sort of sense of belongingness that yes, there is someone who understands me. There is someone who, with whom I can share my struggles, and I am being able to navigate, through talking or through having a shared experience with that particular person. For example, if you come to a different state for an educational purpose, and there's another friend of yours who comes from a different state altogether, same for educational purpose as well. And then you guys met in the campus, you guys spoke, and even though you guys are culturally like completely different, but the feeling of homesickness, the feeling of that you're away from home, missing home, all of these things, even though you are not united, even though you are divided by the culture and the region, but you're united by the feelings that you are having. So I think support system plays a very important role when it comes to giving you a sense of belongingness, sense of validation. Then it also gives you a practical guidance. I believe that when you have peers, when you have friends, when you have mentors, or when you have even people in your life, it gives you a certain it offers you certain tips, or it offers you certain help in day-to-day life, which helps you to navigate a new place or a new land, right? Because, like I said, no matter how much we believe on hyper independency, at the end of the day, we need people, and it always feels good when someone helps us, right? Or when you help someone else. So it gives you a practical guidance by someone of the new place that will definitely help you to navigate. Another thing that you can get is like from social support is emotional support, where you are trusting people in the process, where you share your overwhelming emotions, your feelings, and to reduce the entire feeling of isolation, right? It brings you close, it makes you feel emotionally valid, and it makes you feel emotionally understood by other people. So that is also one of the things that you can that actually helps when you have a good support system. Now, another thing, like I think Dipshika has mentioned before, that thing about like adapting their culture and their cultural things such as festivities, or their holidays or their, the things that they believe in. So that also, if you have a sense of community there, it gives you a community bonding opportunity where you can actually learn a lot about different cultural groups, different student associations, and different interest-based communities. There if there are a lot of universities across India, across the world, where there are student associations. Even though you are away from your home, but you may have an association in your university which is of Northeast, which is of South, which is of your particular state, right? So when you have a community where you belong, it actually gives you these opportunities where you can learn, where you can socialize with people, and with eventually helps you to feel less isolated or feel less homesick, because you are connected with people. And lastly, if none of the social work or none of the none of the support, peer support or like community support is working in your favor or in your life, then there's always professional help which is available, professional guidance which is available. So you can have a therapist, you can have a counselor, and you can definitely share what you're going through with that particular person. And professional help will actually give you a lot of will help you to understand a lot, and will give you a sense of awareness, insight, or whatever thing that you're going through currently, and how in a healthy process you can cope, or you can navigate through all of these challenges. So I think these are few things that actually social support, the role of social support system that help us: sense of belongingness, validation, practical guidance, emotional support, community bonding, and definitely about professional guidance. So I think, Sabina, that somewhere comprehensively answers the question that you asked.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, I completely agree with the answer that you gave. To cope with the cultural differences and the emotional toll of living far away from home, building social networks, peer groups, and if required, getting access to professional help can definitely help the person to maintain emotional stability in a new environment. I would also like to ask Dipshika ma'am if she has some more points to add.
Yes, I think Yeja put it very nicely. The answer was really good. Yes, I just want to, go back and say that thing again. That where I said ki it's also important to mesh with their culture, not only our culture, and that is like the one of the way how we can build those support systems. Because when when we move out and shift there, we won't have like a support system ready for us there. We'll have to work towards it, we'll have to build one. And by respecting each other's cultures and celebrating each other's cultures is, I think, one way we can find more people we connect to. So yeah, I think that is all I have to say. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much to our speakers for sharing such rich insights and reflections. This conversation has definitely shed light on how living far away from home is not just a physical shift but also an emotional and psychological journey. Adapting to The journey of adapting to a new cultural environment can, as we have discussed in the webinar, it can lead to various issues such as homesickness, isolation, identity confusion, cultural shock, and these can ultimately lead to decreased motivation and decreased productivity on the part of the individual. And since every person has certain expectations when they move to a new city or a new place, if their expectations are not met, this can lead to frustration and many other psychological issues. Coping with this can be help like like we have already discussed certain coping strategies, building a social support network, being um, open to the new cultural experiences, then sharing one's own cultural customs, then like mindfulness, setting a healthy routine, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, setting realistic expectations, building strong social supports can help an individual to um, adapt to a new cultural environment with some ease and less difficulty. So, we hope that this webinar has offered understanding and support to those facing these challenges, and perhaps inspired some useful coping tools as well. Um, a warm thank you to the audience who have joined us. And PsychSpace is just a DM away. Please feel free to contact with us for further resources or feedback. Once again, thank you to the speakers. Stay safe, stay well, and let's continue to nurture emotional well being. And thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much, Sabina.